support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I wanted to kind of set the tempo here. Of course, we have Mr. Herb Gray here, but before I introduce him, I wanted to just really allow the people to know that we're broadcasting from the Cedar Heights community because I felt very strong about wanting to have our hand on the pulse in these times. So wanted to come outside of a studio and then just really just have our hand on the pulse of the community. So I just wanted our guests to know that we are in Cedar Heights community, and definitely if you go to our post that we've been posting, going to Mr. Gray's post on his board, Dr. Champion board, you can definitely tap into the link of Zoom. And if you want to be a part of this conversation on this evening, because I think it's so relevant in times like these that we really put our hand on the pulse to know where we're going as people, even after the protests. Brother, where do we go? You know, and one of the things that I was really listening to is the song by the sagacious, soulful sounding sounds of Marvin Gaye. And it was what's going on, you know, what's going on and how prophetic his music has been, how it just transcends time and it's applicable today. And so, but what do we do next? So, you know, what's going on? You know, a lot of the hurting, the police brutality, and after the protests. So now, what do we do next? And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a great conversation, and we do have Mr. Herb Gray. He is definitely an entrepreneur. He's a philanthropist. He's an owner and operating Life Enhancement Services, a nationally accredited behavioral health care agency based in the District of Columbia. And this brother has helped over 8,500 socially and economically underserved children, families, and adults in the Washington, D.C. area. So I wanted to bring him in and engage in a very powerful conversation, because what's going to have to happen, even as a community, is that a community of people, is that there has to be a behavioral change, I believe. So as we get into conversation with Mr. Gray, definitely I wanted to be inclusive to let you know that definitely go to the post that we had on our Facebook page, our Facebook pages, and you can definitely press on that link. So, but before then, we're going to get into. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say,
okay.
You know, while you're introducing the man, go ahead and give him his full props.
Okay.
That he's an HBCU graduate from North Carolina University. So let's
go ahead.
Let's give it up for one of our HBCUs. But also, most importantly, when you start talking about a man of integrity and a man of quality and a man of service, a man of God, you know that he's also an Omega man.
Okay,
so I just have to go ahead
and give him props
Omega. Today. So y'all already know, because I said
Jews out there, I love it.
Hey, and because I said he's an Omega man, y'all just scooted up in your seat because you know something special's coming.
Amen. That's all right. Definitely glad for you to be on the show, brother. But let us. What happens now is that Dr. Champion is going to give us an African American person of interest, and then we're just going to roll right into the show. Okay. So just hold tight for a minute, Mr. Omega Man. Hold tight for a minute. And,
so what I want to say is, as we roll into our African American person of interest, also just to acknowledge that today, you and I, along with Dr. Leo Pinkett, the General Secretary for Ministry to Men with the CME Church, joined together in a dialogue and conversation with the Pan Methodist Men's Ministry from all across all of the Wesleyan traditions of Methodism in the United States. We all came together. It was a time to talk about how men can make a difference in what's going on in the world, and also recognizing that we, as small bodies, cannot do it alone, but it takes the strength of all of us working together. And this meeting was African American and whites coming together in an opportunity for us to recognize that it's time for men to do something and for the church to begin to take leadership, and we committed to moving forward in making those things happen.
Absolutely. Definitely very profound meeting, and definitely proud to be a part of this great movement, because this is what we have here is a movement that's happening across the world even. But even where we sit, it's like we're a part of a great movement. So
Absolutely.
Definitely proud to be a part of this.
Yeah, so it was a great meeting today, and I was encouraged by the fact that there was action items taken, and
absolutely
people own some responsibility in moving forward, and I think we are going to see some really great opportunities to work together with others to make a difference in developing young men, and also empowering men to come together to address world crisis.
I'm excited as we took the action items and then we departed from the call, but definitely can't wait to get started and working it out. Definitely excited. Hey, you know what happened over Sunday? Actually, I was a part of the protest down in Washington D.C. Black Lives Plaza even went past St. John's Episcopal Church, and definitely it was a movement again protesting and to really march and walk with my Caucasian brothers and sisters, and singing spirituals and in unity, and it was very powerful. As even walking away from it, the takeaway was if we're going to get this thing done, we're going to have to work together. Amen. And it's no ifs and buts about it. It's going to take myself. It's going to take the Caucasian church. It's going to take the Asian church. It's going to take all churches, period, to come together in love.
And as we talked about last week, it is a collective experience. The world is better when there is equality and equitable treatment. And so it doesn't matter what race, gender, nationality you are. When people are treated fair and equal, we have the opportunity to live in a better world. And people recognize that and are committed toward moving in that direction. So I hope that we don't just get caught up in a protest, that we begin to have a movement and a revolution, one that brings change.
Yes. Brother Gray, just jumping in right quick. I know since you're an Omega man, you could flow with the conversation. What was going on in Charlotte?
Well, in Charlotte, I tell you some of the same things. I mean, I think that what we're seeing is a surprising rise up of people from all walks of life. Nobody could have predicted this. Maybe they could have predicted the African American community would have been 100% in, but the Latino, the Asian, the white, the people from other countries. So Charlotte is no different. There are major, events that are going on around the fact of unfortunately George Floyd's death. In fact, he had a memorial service not too far from Charlotte, I think it's Saturday. But in doing that, now the discussion is trying to be how do you hold corporations, communities accountable to their actions as it relates particularly to African Americans. So I think that becomes a little bit of a challenging dialogue, but I think it's an opportunity because so many people at least say that now they're ready to listen.
Amen. I think that's the consensus across America, not only America, but I think that's the consensus around the world. At least, democratic societies. Thank you so much for that observation of what's going on over in Charlotte. Are you located there? Are you there now, or you're home in D.C.?
Man, I'm right here, Northeast Washington, D.C. today. So I might be better off living out of my house Washington see what's going on in D.C. Yeah. And Thursday, I can lean out my back and see what's going on in Charlotte.
Okay.
But for those who don't know, I live kind of in Charlotte. I live half my time in Washington. I own a healthcare company here in the district.
Okay.
But I'm in D.C. right now.
Okay, I was getting ready to say we can give you a microphone and you can just go on outside of Charlotte and start reporting news there for us.
Man, I'm gonna tell you what. I can't find it right now. I have my mask. I have my Washington Redskins mask. And then when I got to play in Charlotte, I got a Charlotte. I'm that type of guy, man. I'm gonna go.
Wherever you are. just don't confuse yourself where you are, right?
No, I'm going to tell you, just don't fly to Dallas.
I got a Dallas mask for me.
Definitely, that's all right, man.
Yeah.
Definitely, just definitely stay safe. Stay safe. We want you to make sure you stay safe, whether it's a Charlotte mask or a Washington D.C. mask. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Because I know they're not feeling that we have that coach from down there, so we're gonna see what he's gonna bring up here. So I'll leave it right there.
Right there.
Yeah, Dr. Champion.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, so today for our African American person of interest,
Yes, sir.
we have a unique opportunity to talk about Doris Dory Miller. Okay, so Doris, and I want to make this clear that Doris was a African American male. Mm-hmm. He was given that name by his midwife, the midwife that participated in delivery, because she thought he was going to be a girl. Mm. And so he was given the name Doris, and but he commonly became known as later in life as Dory. So he was an American soldier, Navy. He was in the Navy, and he was the first African American awarded the Navy Cross, the second highest Declaration of Valor award given to a serviceman. So he was born in Waco, Texas, where he had a normal childhood, played football at A.J. Moore High School, and I think they said he was a fullback. He enlisted into the Navy in 1939 and became a mess attendant. So he worked in the kitchen. He wasn't a cook, but he was responsible for keeping the mess hall tidy. He was assigned in 1940 to the battleship West Virginia. Okay. And for a lot of us who know U.S. history, we know what happened to the battleship West Virginia. But when he first arrived there, he became at 6'3" and over 200 pounds, he became the heavyweight boxing champion of the West Virginia. Wow. In 1941, he was on the ship when it was attacked in Pearl Harbor. He manned an aircraft gun as well as he attended to the wounded. What was really so impressive about him manning that, he was not trained in that. Remember, he was a cook. I mean, he was a mess hall attendant. And after serving breakfast and cleaning the mess hall, the alarm went off, and then he went into action. And he, provided a significant amount of heroic action in order to be recognized that day. Because of what he had done, he was recognized in a lot of African American newspapers and media, and he became a hero. The ironic thing was that he got the nickname Dory not because anyone called him that, but during all of this press that he was receiving, they misspelled his name. And so there's no history of people calling him Dory, but it caught on because that was the way it was printed, that people actually believed that that was his real name. 2 years later, after being bombed in Pearl Harbor, he was on another ship, and that was the Liscum Bay ship. And during the Battle of Macon, he was killed in action when a Japanese bomber sunk that ship. So he died in service. After being a hero at Pearl Harbor, he died in service. But one of the things I just want to acknowledge, and this is what I found very interesting, when the accommodations for Pearl Harbor were released, there was one accommodation that was given to an unnamed Negro. And so he was not even recognized along with others who were participated in the battle that day. But it was the NAACP who, petitioned President Roosevelt. And President Roosevelt and the Navy Review Board went back and looked at it. And then he was officially awarded and given by name the award of the Navy Cross. So today we just want to recognize a young man who gave his life for our country, died at 24 years old, but as the first African American to receive this high honor, Doris Dory Miller.
Amen. Amen.
Right.
And we definitely salute him on this day. We salute him on this day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we talked a little bit earlier, want to really put our hands on the pulse of the people, and so we definitely want you to respond and ask questions and give your comments and your concerns equally as well. One of the questions that I want to pose to you, the audience, is where do we go next? What do we do next? What's next? After we've protested, after we've gone through what we've experienced, we know that racism has been addressed. We understand it for what it is, and even through the death of George Floyd being buried or funeralized today, and we've marched, we've put the time in. So now what's next? What do we do next? And our guest today, Herb Gray, is, again, he's a philanthropist, a community leader, an entrepreneur. And so I wanted to bring him in to help us to talk about where do we go next, even in the sense of the behavioral science aspect. Where do we go next, and what needs to happen with people, not just African-American people, but people, period. Mr. Gray, welcome to my Brother's Keeper.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody hear me okay, but thank you so much. And looking forward, Dr. Gray, Dr. Champion, to be a part of this for some time. So I'm glad that you all, you gave me this opportunity, and I will try to do my best to represent what you all are doing, and also do my best to try to answer the question in a way that hopefully gives some insight on where we could go. I think that, and again, ultimately, the space I play in, again, I own a mental health care company called Life Enhancement Services here in Washington. And the space I play in is I have about maybe just a little short of 100 people work for me. We hire people from all backgrounds, but I actually about 98% of the people that work for me are African American. We service about 700 some people a week, and I would say about 100% of those people are African American. So we try to realize, so I try to take care of people both from an economic standpoint, but also try to take care of people from again, a mental health care, from a mental health care standpoint. Being African American, I'm not telling you or your listeners anything to do. It can be a challenge in every single day, no matter where your economic level is. But it's certainly something that we as a group of people don't, wish us to have any difficulties, but the broader community kind of sometimes, places different barriers on us. I think that, especially with this administration that we have, that has led to a platform where people reason to be politically incorrect. Right? Now, when you go from politically incorrect to actually just going out of your way to do physical harm to somebody, I think that you even move further out of your way, right? So I think that as a group, the pressure, I mean, it's on us to show people, hey, we're tired of this, but it also has to be, aside from the other side, saying, what are you genuinely willing to try to do to correct wrongs, and not long term, but right now. So I'm hoping that I can be part of all dialogues to make a change.
Amen. Amen. Okay, even when we start talking about the challenges as far as the protesting, now that we've made our concern of the unjust killings that has been happening or we've been experiencing at the hands of police officers, what do you think one of the biggest things that need to happen at this point as we finish protesting? What needs to happen at this point?
You know, Doc, it's thank you for that difficult question. I'm gonna try to answer it as best I can. I'm a business person. I think that corporations can sort of band together and make something really work that's doable for individuals. Here's an example I mentioned. If you just look at Washington, you're talking about affordable housing. You're talking about banks who can assist with playing a level to even if it's real estate, right? It's history, from a historical standpoint, blacks get denied more than whites, the same credit score. Blacks get the opportunity to borrow less money than whites with the same credit scores. And you start talking about that, you start talking about one's wealth or a generational standpoint. When you look at business opportunities, no matter what the industry is, whether it's car dealerships, whether it's Chick-fil-A franchise, whatever it may be, we're giving less opportunities to even own those. So I think that they can start with some. Yes, I tell people this one more time. There's not a corporation in America, in my opinion, that black in that corporate job make less than white folks. White folks, generally speaking, across the board for the same job, are going to make more than black people. There's not a corporation in America where blacks, the top 100 blacks haven't had to have a class action lawsuit against the corporation. In general, whites don't have to do class action lawsuit. I think when you ask what can be done, I just think from a business standpoint, discussion can be made, and I might take another president or something, to say, hey, how do we at least make certain things happen in my corporation that if there's loans going out? How do we make sure? How do we look at it, bring outside entity in? Don't govern ourselves, bring an outside entity in and say, are we paying everybody across the board the same rate? And so when you look at those type of things, that it's not hard to figure out what's going on. I mean, a guy like me is telling you what's going on. But when you look, oh wow, here goes a pack of blacks broken Gucci store. Well, yeah, they did and they do the right things, but most of the white folks are going to do Gucci. They got there because they were white. I mean, they got there because they got the best job. They got there because mom and dad got them into the colleges they were trying to get. They got there because they got the loans to buy out here in a gentrified area, turn around, sell that, then buy another home. But then they go down and treat themselves Gucci. But nobody looks at that way. We look at the person who grew up and took it out of there. So that's the way I look at it.
Okay. So we're dealing with it from a business perspective. I think I was reading something with Robert Smith, and he rolled out a plan of a tune of so many trillions of dollars, and dealing with over 40 million African Americans, and I think he assessed it about a little over $350,000 per person per payout. What are your thoughts on that? The reparations.
Before that money runs out, my last thing is So I get some all like that. Yeah, I won't let you know that, but yeah, I got what Bob was saying, and I think that it's more of a reparations of what did not happen, and that's a deep dive, man. I mean, again, when you look at, I've been home for this pandemic watching things, or whether it's Amazon Prime, Netflix, and sometimes we were just pushed off land that we had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people said we wanted to just push us up. People said they wanted to make up the tax code while you couldn't do it. And so convincing white folks of what they've done wrong is going to be the key. We know as a group of people what wrong. And whether or not they would give you those trillions is probably mathematically correct. Right? I watched the story, not going on. I watched the story of J.P. Morgan, how he, did the railroads, things like that. One thing I missed in that story that didn't come out, that the railroads from his time, 1800, were built by blacks. They would incarcerate them, put them out the railroads to go to work for free. Right? Yeah, cool.
Blacks in China.
98% of your labor force was free.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right? See, when you start talking about that, people they get kind of, and so they don't want to hear that. But
it's a reality. It's a reality.
It is.
Yes.
It is, man. It is. So I would say, on the one hand, Bob is correct, at least lifting up and getting that dialogue going. And I also say that not just, I go back to that business model of corporations and the federal government. We can't be shy. We can't shy away and say, well, how can we make hiring and training? Everybody's going to go to a 4-year university, but our kids who don't, what is some training? What are some opportunities out here that they can get involved in, that they can have a decent quality of life? And whether or not you invested billions in that, then maybe that would be something we can look at as well.
Okay. All right.
No, I appreciate what you're saying, and I totally agree with you. I think one of the things that is going to be a hard task is getting majority America to realize that there's sins they have to pay for. So one thing moving forward.
Well, if I can I just, I think that everybody has given apologies for their hand in slavery, but America. And that's when you talk about the heart, that hard piece. But I'm for that. At what point do we have that hard piece? That's all I want to say.
But my point even goes beyond slavery. Slavery's ended a long time ago, and there are still things that are being enacted today so slavery and a lot of laws put us behind the curve.
Yes.
However, there's still things today that are going on. There's still further. But that's not us. Never recognizing what they're currently doing that continues to contribute to the state of racism, sexism, and inequality. And so it's a hard pill for them to take. So because of that, every side of they don't see it as making things equal, they see it as us being given an advantage. And until we can show them that they have to change their mindset, that no, we're not getting an advantage. We just want to be on an even playing field. No, you can't make up for all the things that you've done in the past. But what you can do, if I'm qualified, you can hire me today. If I am come in and I do a good job, you can pay me what you pay the next person. If I come and move into your neighborhood, you can allow me to feel safe in your community. Absolutely. And those are some of the things that, even though all of the things that we can't take back, there are individuals in the majority today that do not make us feel safe, comfortable, and qualified and equal. And that's where I think the biggest stake has to. So, Right. I don't want to see white police officers kill African American men, and they'll march around that. But will they march around equal pay?
Yes.
Will they march around, you know, fair housing opportunities? Will they march, as the brother said earlier, to ensure that we are getting our loans at the same interest rate that someone else is getting? So even when we do make the same amount of money, our money doesn't stretch as far because we're paying higher interest rates, or we are being offered certain deals that are behind the table.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So even, I mean, I'm definitely in agreement with what you're saying. I'm definitely, I don't dispute that. And to piggyback on that, basically still enjoying the fruits of the benefits of this, you know, the enactment of what was done to African Americans. So I'm definitely on.
We got a country that was founded by criminals. And so there was criminal mentality that came from that. So many of these people were on those boats coming to the United States because they were kicked out of their country for being thieves and robbers.
That's right.
And they came here, and that's what they did to the natives who were here. They stole from them, and they robbed them, and they began to set up a place that all of a sudden they had carte blanche. And when they got here and did that, they set up a system that here we are, you know, 300 years later, that still works to their advantage.
You know, I read an article, I talked to on my social media, Facebook page, in the New York Times, and it talked about, you know, all the good things the corporation was saying they were willing to do to help heal the country. But it noted that none of the big banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, had any blacks at that high senior level. None of Google, Amazon, maybe even Facebook had no blacks at the high senior level. It noted company after company. Why do I bring that up? You know, when you start looking at the way things go, they still, I say they as white people, and they're still, and that's not to take away, you know, some good white people out here, but as white, they still don't all the way get it, because they probably didn't walk up in there after all that marching and all that walking around and say, wow, when I walk to work, everybody here is white at this level. I'm not talking about the customer service. I'm talking about, you know, you get what I'm saying? And so New York Times did a very good piece of the day on it. I just thought it was very interesting and timely. And so I think that if somebody were to continue to ask me, hey, what is we can do, you have to sort of see how you can get more people inclusive, in my opinion, in economic standpoint of life, because everybody wants good quality life, health care, they want to be able to get a home and send their kids to wherever they want to, but it becomes a challenge when you have you know, unnecessary barriers. And to make one point, this on something else, we were talking earlier about water I was drinking, and I was drinking all one Sunday, but I had to go get my back checked at the chiropractic place where a buddy of mine owns one, and it's an extremely nice place. And I walked in, and the doctor there, he was a white man, totally rubbed me the wrong way. And they introduced himself. I told him, I can use the restroom right quick. Oh no, you can't use the restroom. I never heard nobody tell me that, right?
Wow.
He was like very impolite. So I'd rather than going off and knocking his head off, you know, he showed it that incarcerated. Rather than doing that, I called him and explained the story. You know, he had the white man call me and talk to me. Now, why do I just the are sliced to us? I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I have been to Pier 1, I've been to other places, I walk in there and get my back done, and here's a doctor just totally disrespects me for no particular reason, other than I've got to feel because I'm black. And then they wonder why you ain't. I think James Baldwin talked about that. He's always in a state of, you know, eruption almost, right? And they just don't have to live like that, right? I mean, I think Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump's people not the bottom level, but you use some word about those people, right? Even that level doesn't have to do it like that, right? And so I'm worried, gentlemen, that once some of this dies down, of this marching, once some of this, let's embrace ourselves. That's what they said during 9/11. Let's all put our differences to the side. I'm worried, will we be there? Right? And you're really going to be in a terrible situation if Trump wins. Because they're going to have martial law do what they want to do. Right? But I say this to say I'm worried about that. What happens after all this if you don't have some meaningful things you can put in place to say, let's make some change?
I definitely agree. And even looking at, I think we should be forward thinking to say, hey, you know what, if this guy chooses not to leave when he loses, and you know, I mean, again, we need to start thinking way ahead of the curve and looking at ways of really getting this guy out so that, you know, once he loses, that he will leave. Because, you know, he puts me in the mind of a person that is going through, you know, a boyfriend, a scorned boyfriend or a scorned girlfriend that stalk you and will and won't leave. And I mean, just the mentality, you know, of what he feels he's entitled to. How dare you feel you want to leave me? You know, and then it's like, no, we didn't vote for you, so you gotta go. And it's like he'll sit and put a flag in there and declare he still is, you know, the man. I think we need to start getting in a place where how can we get him out of and keep it moving, to keep it fluid, you know, to keep the process going. Every president, once they were leaving office, handed off the keys, shook the hand, got on, what's that, Marine?
Air Force One.
Chopper.
Yeah, the Marine chopper. They took him to Air Force One and took him all the way from here. So, so I think a lot of people can't wait for that to happen, but I think that we need to start looking at what happens if he would stop. He won't, you know, go away.
You know,
that's a frightening thought.
Well,
Exactly.
What we also have to be very mindful of is that in that period of time that he's not, if he's not elected, during that period of time before he's removed from office, that we don't allow him to begin to get legislation passed that becomes problematic for his successor.
Yes.
And so we have to make sure that we hold the current Congress and Senate in place, because I believe there's going to be a lot of uproar in not only the presidential election, we're going to see elections all.
Yes.
We're going to see a lot of change come through in this election. But what's important is that we don't allow individuals between November and January to put us in a deeper hole, that we have to hold people accountable to ensure that that doesn't happen.
Okay.
That's right.
Brother Gray.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's say an individual want to change, want hope, they want a better way. How can they begin the process of a behavior?
So you like to ask a tough question. You know, changing a behavior, I read this book that talked about just doing one thing right, and how difficult it is to develop a habit. Some people say it takes 90 days, 60 some days to develop a habit. You know, I talked to young men here in Washington who have been incarcerated, have you know, been incarcerated. I talked to some who've been incarcerated. Being incarcerated kind of means a lot of times you don't have a choice but to try to do the right thing. You want to get out, right? When you get out, how do you do it? So I was talking about try to get up each day and say, what is my one thing I'm going to be working on today to improve myself? So I think that you can get advice, but you have to just have the willpower, and it's not that easy to say, I'm going to try to make this change, right? And I'm going to set the goal. So if the goal is to say, I want to go to here and get a car with UDC or Howard or whatever, you have to look at yourself and say, what can I do today to position myself, even if it takes me 6 years instead of 4 years, right? I'm not going to be a totally expert, but I say that a lot of times the change that you're looking for, whether it's I want to lose 25 pounds, whatever, it's going to take a little while, right? And you have to be in the mindset to say, I'm going to keep working at this, and this is going to take a little while, because whatever the change I'm trying to do, I'm trying to save $1,000, whatever it may be, right? You didn't get there overnight, so you won't kind of get out overnight. So you have to be in this mindset. I'm gonna stick to this, stick to this every day, and I know it's just gonna take a little while, but if I can see a little bit of progress, and that gives me the strength and the hope to try to continue to fight that journey.
Let's continue to add to your faith, which is basically having a plan. Having a plan, and so therefore, when I have that plan, I'm able to add goals to that plan, and I guess one of the things would be adding to the goals, celebrating each goal, each successes along that journey is to be able to celebrate them. But I think what would happen is to have a mentor such as Dr. Champion to help you celebrate each small goal along the journey, to say, I did it, and I did it, and I could do the next one, and you continue to celebrate those until you achieve that whole goal and make another plan for achieving it.
I agree. I say this too, and you make a good thing about a mentor. I always tell people, sometimes people are a little busy to be your mentor, but somebody, you know who you want to be in life, who you look, you can get close to somebody that every once in a while give you some advice on what you should make. It's always, to me, a solid way of trying to figure some things out. I didn't have many people around me own a business. I did find a few business owners, was able to get some experience from ideas from them, and I read books, man. The guy John Johnson from Ebony, the Jim from Black Enterprise, Earl Graves, and the guy on this Reggie Lewis Beatrice. I just read, man, and I just read a lot, and so I found that I was able to kind of some things I've done just I say merely reading, but that's what I did. I read.
And I just want to just kind of co-sign with what you're saying about the mentors, accountability partners. One thing is important when you're trying to establish a goal, to not try to do it all by working with somebody, by having somebody, because at the end of the day, we often will put stuff off. We don't change our goal, but we put it off. Well, I'll do it tomorrow. But when you have to look somebody in the face that kind of just says, oh, how did it go today? How many days do you want to tell them that I put it off till tomorrow? And those accountability partners become part of our encouragement. And as you say, finding those small milestones to celebrate. Because sometimes we set goals that are so difficult and that are so far away that it's hard seeing ourselves getting toward that. But when you set those small milestones, you find yourself, okay, I'm one notch closer. And so I'm not as far away as I was. So these are some very important things to just understand, that we are not on this earth to do anything alone. Absolutely. And when we don't work with somebody else, then we're hurting ourselves to align and be as creative, as successful as we want to be.
I definitely agree. When you talk about working together, I think one of the things is reaping and sowing and reaping. You reap what you sow. So therefore, it's when we are able to feed what's feeding us. Feed what's feeding us, and it's relational. And a lot of times people don't understand that reaping and sowing, it's relational. So therefore it's mentoring. Then you mentor. If you want to have a friend, then you turn around and you find yourself friendly. If you want love, you love someone. And then it's just the law of reciprocity. You get what you give. You get what you give. And Go ahead.
And I'll say this, it's not as simple as this, but I think one place people can find a lot of what they're trying to do is in the church. Now, there may not be the platform for what I'm saying, but I think that you have to kind of place yourself in places where people are at least are centered on something positive, something uplifting, something that is encouraging, something that says, I've been down, I'm not trying to help you, that and things of that nature. So I think that all people, I tell people this all the time, I don't try to push people away, but I say, you might have to come out of where you are and try to get involved in the church and then see how you can be a servant, and then others will continue to serve, be of service to you.
Amen. I absolutely agree. One of the things is that servitude is a principle to greatness. I look at over 1954, it was one man sold one hamburger, and he continued to sell hamburgers and French fries, and then put up some golden arches. And so now you have over 98 billion served. So servitude is a principle.
That's right.
So definitely.
That's right.
Who are you serving? Who you're serving. So definitely. Go ahead, Dr.
No, you're right, because see, one of the things you have to recognize is not all about what I'm getting. It's about, what am I contributing? Because when you contribute, then the opportunity to receive is greater. When I was in the federal government and I managed organizations, one of the things that I felt was that it was my job to take care of them. If someone is sick, if someone is going through something, I would sit them down and spend time with them. It had nothing to do with the work product. But if they are not healthy, whole, then they can't give me a good work product. So sometimes it's about ensuring that they have all the things they need. You need more training, you need time off, you need these things, and in serving them allows them to be more productive. And in the end of the day, I'm the winner because I have a highly efficient, effective, and productive staff.
That's right.
And so sometimes we have to recognize that we got to invest in others for us to be recipients of greatness ourselves.
That's good. What I just heard is that a leader is one who cares about others. That's what I just heard.
And that's
good. That's good.
That's one of the differences between what makes motivate people. You're doing things that empower them to do what it's going to do. Because we all know that there's certain people that'll do exactly what you're doing, what they're going to do, as long as you're standing there. But as soon as you leave the room, they're going to do their own thing.
What they can do.
But when you motivate people and you lead people, you can turn your back and walk out the door, and they're going to continue to do what's right because they're committed to you, they're committed to the mission.
That's right. And they understand the vision.
That's right.
Brother Gray, stop trying to slip out, man. Go ahead, jump in there, man.
It's not always about me dropping, nuggets of knowledge, because I know it's what sometimes I'm here for. But I get to hear other people and listen to what their background is, and it helps me get me a better understanding of their perspective. How does their perspective, help me in the world? So that's what, for a moment now, I'm just listening to you all thinking about management, leadership, and what it takes to be a leader of individuals. And I totally agree with those things.
That's all right, brother. That's all right. Dr. Champion?
Well, how are we on time?
We have about 5 minutes.
The big clock.
Well, here's the big clock right there.
Okay. See, this was short distance.
You've been broadcasting. You got like 10 minutes.
Okay. So, and the thing is, Brother Gray, I'm what you do, and the number of people that you have been able to help while you've been in practice is just phenomenal. And what people, and I say this because we're talking about serving, and you have become a successful businessman by serving the underserved. So some folk just believe that they have to go out here and rip folk off and not provide a service to get rich. And what we see in your life and in your commitment and your passion for the work you do, how serving folk have benefited you to a point where not only do you see wellness in your life, but then you've been able to focus on giving back through philanthropy. So just come and tell us a little bit about your practice and tell us a little bit about the things you do, but also how it allows you to serve people.
So again, for those listeners, the name of my company is Life Enhancement Services. Website www. 692401. And again, I've just been fortunate to live my dream as a business owner. My dream is somebody who helps those most in need every day. I had a student today, she was a grad student at Bowie State University. She needed a job. We were able to hire her blessing. Over this weekend, I had a family whose house was shot up here in DC, and they needed a hotel to stay in for 3 days just to, the DC government could figure out another way to house these individuals. We were able to bless them with a hotel. And last week we did 75 bags of groceries to individuals in Washington. We're going to do the same thing this week. Now, why do I say all that? I think that you reach your biggest blessing when you're able to somewhat achieve what you like, but also when you can reach out of your comfort zone a little bit to help somebody else. And I think that model has really paid off for me. So I do what I do sometimes over and beyond, excuse me, not really gain anything from it, but in doing so, I always seem to get something back in return, right? And so it has become a natural for me to reach out and help those most in need. I mean, that could be sometimes political events for candidates I believe in, but most of the time it is helping our youth, trying to figure out what they need to be and where they need to go. And so it has been a model that has worked for me. It has been a model that worked for some other people. It's crazy, a lot of African American business owners, that is a model they have to use, right? I mean, whether it's funeral home owners or restaurateurs or computer people, like you talked about the guy who paid for the kids in Morehouse. There were so many other people who done those type of things. We understand, and we don't look at it as a burden, but we do understand that we feel, hey, we would like to reach out and help people who are most in need that we can help.
Amen. What I'm hearing, I guess my takeaway from what you just shared is that you're seeking, you're sowing value into others, and again, that whole reaping and sowing principle. You're sowing value and you're reaping that harvest of that greatness, right. and that's awesome. That's awesome there. Mm-hmm. So it's like that passion, and I mean, you're adding the value to that thing, and it's like God is just blessing you based upon the passion that He's placed in your heart to serve the people in the area in which your focus is, and that's the blessing. That's a blessing because it brings your joy heart. I mean, it brings your heart joy and simple. I mean, just that thing of just simple joy. Now it's adding value because it's coming back in ways that you didn't even expect for it to come. But you just really just added the value of just caring by serving out of the passion in your heart. And I think that's so awesome how God uses that. Just some simple gift that He's given each and every one of us to serve the people. And that's the value. And then it's immeasurable. It's immeasurable. Thank you. Thank you.
And this is something
that... And let me say, I couldn't say this about without saying that I've been fortunate, guys, just to have some great people around me who work with me, who believe in the vision I do. And you know how it is, man. You just can't do it on your own. And even opportunities like this evening to be on a show like this, I can't say anything more than I'm just always thankful with good people around me, and it helps me continue to grow and do the things I do.
Amen. Amen. That's what's up. That's what's up.
But Doc, we look forward to being able to partner with you in the future. You know, we do this show, but it is our goal to also be out in the streets and in the community and touching people and making effective change in people's lives. And if there's things that we can ever do for you, please know that we're part of your network now, and you're part of the My Brother Keeper network. So we're getting together on these things because, again, the only way to solve these concerns that we face are doing them together.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, we're gonna do this together, and I'm gonna lean all over y'all.
All right.
I see the machine turning, right?
Yeah, can we gonna have a little conversation offline?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We're gonna do that, man.
Well, definitely, Brother Gray. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
As soon as this pandemic we get something to me, I always tell anybody that gives me opportunity to always take my dinner or lunch. And so as soon as we can figure this out, I'm gonna do that same thing with you all. We get something to eat somewhere, and chop it up and just shoot and go from there. But you hold me to it, we're gonna make that work.
All right, brother. All right. Well, Brother Gray, thank you definitely for being a part of this discussion, and we thank you, man. We just thank you for coming, sharing with us your gift. And ladies and gentlemen, it is lesdc.org. Telephone number is 202-269-2401. lesdc.org, where you can reach out to the brother, Dr. Yet? Is it Dr. Yet?
Dark.
I say, is it Dr. Yet?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Brother, that's on that goal list.
Okay.
If you want to call me Dr. Gray,
prophetically, we're speaking it. We're speaking it prophetically. Well, we definitely thank you for sowing your gift of your value, and through your gift, we definitely thank you. And again, lesdc.org, ladies and gentlemen. And definitely reach out. Brothers are being a blessing by serving the people of the community. I mean, 75 bags of groceries. Come on, somebody. That's some good eating. That's some good eating. Man, you can do a whole lot of eating with 75 75 bags. I mean, I don't know what the limit is on each with each family, but it's all good though. But definitely, I'm sorry.
Just a shout out from one of his employees. She does say, and he is awesome to work for. So
and he is awesome.
He actually is not just speaking it; he does put it in action.
Amen. So they're one of your fruit.
Thank you so much for the session, man. And Miss Tony makes my day go smoothly with your daughter, and so I thank you so much, and for being the mom you have there, because your daughter certainly is an amazing person. So thank you for it.
She gets it all from her mother. Don't worry about it.
Move your hand so somebody else can pat you on the back. Why don't you? Some closing remarks from you, Mr. Gray. Closing remarks.
Well, again, for our listeners, I mean, we have to talk about pandemic. We have to talk about riot, looting, demonstration. It's a tough time we're living in, but everybody's going to get through. We're going to make it better. And what we really want to do is just, especially on the end of racial justice, is we're all trying to continue to figure out how to create good dialogue and we come out with something purposeful that we can use. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and we're going to continue to build it together.
Amen. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, what you see today is the result of what our parents and grandparents did yesterday. What you see tomorrow is the result of what we do today. Go online, do take your census, go vote, do something and make a difference and make your voice heard.
There you go.
Our time is up. We definitely thank you for yours. Remember, you can catch the rebroadcast of My Brother's Keeper Show featuring Brother Herb Gray on YouTube, Instagram, as well as LinkedIn directly after the show this evening. Remember, when good men stand together, we become greater. We are our brother's keeper, and see you on the other side of greatness.